and welcome to the J-Train podcast. This is J-Train, Jared Freid, coming to you live from the quarantine cabin on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. We are here Mondays and Thursdays. That's right, with your emails, your stories, your questions. I say it every episode. I'll say it again. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for telling a friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's all you got to do. I consider that payment. That's right. That is the easiest money you can spend. The money you don't even got to spend. You tell a friend, a coworker, a brother, a sister, a mama, a papa, anyone with ears. Now we're good. Now you get the Wizard of Oz, the Sultan of Swipe, the Prince of Promos, the Board Lord. You get me taking the wheel to your brain Mondays and Thursdays, give you a break from your anxieties, your fears, your thoughts, your dreams. Let Papa JT take the wheel. That's what this is all about, especially summertime. Summertime blues. We always go up a little bit in the summer. So now's a good time to suggest to someone. Someone's taking a road trip home. Someone's stuck in their apartment. They need it. They want it. They yearn for it. And we're here. And listen, if you're looking for extra content, we were going 5 days a week. I'm still kind of going 5 days a week. Patreon. Love Patreon. I got a big crew of people. It keeps growing. It's getting big. And I'm putting out Wednesdays, Luxury Lounge. I complain about the luxuries in life. Fridays, I do a longer email that I didn't get to on the podcast. We call it One More Email. Sundays, Coffee with J-Train. I call it my sad little diary. It's just me cleaning out my head from the week. So that's the schedule. Get involved. Patreon.com/Jared Freid. Patreon.com/Jared Freid. Very excited about today's guest. He is returning to the podcast, the second time on the show, an OKP, original key player, Langston Kerman. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, what a dream. Back here with Papa JT. I'm excited.
That's right. It's great to have you back. I got to say, you know, I don't see you much. You're in LA.
Right, yeah.
But
yeah,
I remember
I've been here a while, and we met briefly in New York, and then I moved to LA. So yeah, we don't get to bump into each other very often.
And I remember you were great on the show the first time, but also like from then on, I'm like following you on social media. I love all the stuff you put out. I love your Twitter. I'm a fan.
What an honor for you to say that. I mostly talk nonsense about my bowel movements, but you say kind words.
That's kind of my wheelhouse. Is nonsense bowel movement comedy is kind of what I love the most. So
that's what Papa's into. I get it.
That's right. Yeah, the Baron of Bowels over here. So I want everyone to go follow Langston because I am a fan. At Langston Kerman. At Langston Kerman. You moved out to LA, and you know you might recognize Langston. He was on Insecure.
Yeah.
And you went on Insecure, and that you were like, I'm going to Hollywood.
It was more of I went on Insecure, and then I met a girl who wouldn't move to New York with me, so we moved to LA instead.
Are you guys married now?
We're married. I've been married almost, I guess it's 10 months now. We've been married.
Congratulations. So
thank you, sir.
How's married? Because as you know,
there's a lot of singles on this. Yeah, a lot of people worried about relationships.
That's right. So how do they lock a guy like you down? That's kind of I don't agree with that perspective of like maybe they should have a little bit more like how do I get locked down?
Yeah, but I don't think you want that. You should want better for yourself than a guy like me.
Well, what made you? I mean, you moved across the country. Like, was there something, that made you say like, well, if you don't want to go to New York, I got to come to you? What was there? Is there a story that connects to that or?
Oh, well, so she lived in Baltimore at the time. She's a lawyer. She has a much better job than me. She's a much more capable human being than I ever will be. And so I had very little negotiating power in all of this. As you know.
And as a lawyer, she's a better negotiator.
She's a better negotiator. I have no strategy here other than to say, please don't leave me. And if we need to do it in a different city, I'm happy to do so.
And for her, she was like, I can do my job in LA. Like, that's the most comfortable place for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think New York is hard just all the time. It makes everything just a grind. And I think if you work hard enough to become a lawyer, you don't want to have to also be grinding on the train and dealing with the people.
I completely agree with you. It is the difference is walking outside. The difference is walking down the street. The difference is being in your own car with your own air conditioning, with the seats that you got, leather seats that you got because you want to be more comfortable. There's no comfort. There's less comfort here.
No, there's like old apple juice and graffiti on the seats that you have to take wherever you're going. And now we know where the apple juice and the graffiti came from. It was from us. We're, disgusting people, but that's our choice.
Sure. It's just swimming in old apple juice.
Uh-huh.
Well, I mean, so have you enjoyed LA? Have you enjoyed being a comedian there?
Not like New York, no. I mean, I love being a human in LA. I think being a human being is LA is a better option. There is space and grass, and people at least feign a kindness that New Yorkers refuse.
Sure.
But comedy, I think, suffers hugely. You get to go up all the time, and pre-pandemic, certainly. Yeah. But the frequency isn't the same. The laughs aren't the same. So I miss New York in that way. But I like fresh air.
Well, that is the idea of like putting your toes in the grass of a yard. Like the idea that I yearn for that a little bit. Like if I see a patch of grass, I kick off the shoes. like the idea
and then some dude yells, "Put your fucking shoes back on."
Exactly.
What are you doing?
That is a New York thing where the minute you get out, you're like, let me just put my toes in these little blades of grass. And then I'll do another thing where I'll take a deep breath outside of New York City. Like if I get even 20 minutes outside the city, I'll do like a big inhale and I'll go, oh, that was good air.
Yeah. This is that air everybody's talking about. I heard about this air.
That had oxygen in it. Shit. You do have that moment, and in LA you can kind of get those small things.
Yeah, LA's real good at pretending it's a better city than it is, and I like that about it. If we're gonna lie to ourselves, I like being lied to the way LA lies to me.
You're going to be lied to no matter where you are.
Exactly. The reality is we should all just move to like Nebraska and enjoy life as it is meant to be enjoyed, but we're not going to do that. So I might as well be lied to in a big city with
there's a lot of truth in that. I wanted to ask you got a podcast that's coming out. Okay?
That's right.
I'm excited for you because as a person in the podcast game, I'm always excited.
Oh, you're not just a person. You're a big money player in the podcast
That's
game.
Right. That's what they call me. Big money player Freid whenever I go to my podcast meetings. They're like, holy shit, here he comes. You have a podcast coming out August 18th. It's called My Mama Told Me. What is the 1 minute premise? What's the commercial for it?
This is great. It's a podcast about Black conspiracy theories. So any conspiracy theory that Black people tend to believe or proliferate or just make up, we dig into them and we talk some shit. So
I love a podcast where you learn.
Yes, there's a lot of learning.
I legitimately just learned something new from the 1 minute commercial that you just gave.
Did you not know that Black people love conspiracy theories?
I knew people loved conspiracy theories. Not to all lives matter, the subject.
I think conspiracy theories are for everybody.
Well, I totally understand the idea that every group would have their own. I would assume. So can you give some examples? And were these things, it's called My Mama Told Me.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming, is your mom a conspiracy? Is she going to be on the show?
I'd love for her to do the show, and I'm sure she would. She has some very jarring conspiracies that, like, we've argued about it already, but she's fully off board on the idea of taking the coronavirus vaccine because she doesn't believe in shots from white doctors because y'all have a history of poisoning us. So, it's it's ongoing journey of digging into people's, both their families and their personal experiences with like fears and
that's an amazing fear that's layered in so many things it's funny because you in the beginning you're like, my mom is against the coronavirus vaccine, and in my mind I'm going, well, my dad's like kind of not buying it. And it's funny when you're talking about black conspiracy theories, you dovetail into like, well, white people poison us, and you go, oh, okay, that's a whole new thing my dad wouldn't have gone into.
Well, that's the thing. There's going to be a beautiful Venn diagram between a lot of the conspiracy theories, and where we're going to disagree is whose fault it is. And that's the fun of this podcast, is just figuring out whose fault we think it is, and the white viewers at home or listeners at home deciding if they agree with us or if they're going to cancel me immediately.
I don't think you're going to. I love this idea for a podcast because it's personal and it's a show. Mm-hmm. Like the idea that someone could come on and you could have any number of people that they're like, oh, I got my dad, mom, whoever, cousin, uncle conspiracy theory. Do you have any more? I'm already learning. I'm into this.
Oh, so many. We've had we've talked a little bit on the podcast. It can be anything from as small as the idea that for years everybody was told that they had to turn their lights off in their, like, you couldn't have your light on in your car while you're driving because that's illegal. It is not, in fact, illegal, and they cannot pull you over for that. But that's something that was told to us for years and told it was a dangerous thing. For what reason, we don't know. Or it could be as extreme as, Ronald Reagan creating the AIDS virus as a way of destroying underprivileged communities. We go the full spectrum, So
this could the spectrum from fun conspiracy theory to mentally debilitating ones. Yeah. Yep. Listen, I love a good podcast premise. I love one especially that I've never heard before. I'm into it. You got me. So I think everyone needs to go listen to My Mama Told Me. August 18th is when it releases. Right. We're going to figure out when this comes out. I'm sure it's going to be close to that date. So go follow Langston Kerman because he'll be putting it on all his social medias at Langston Kerman on Twitter and Instagram. Go follow, go support. Hilarious comic. I'm pumped to have you here, man. Are you ready to do some emails?
Let's do it. I'm so excited to dig into these.
We have a lot of them, too. JTrainPodcast@gmail.com, JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. JTrain, going to get right to it. I went with my boyfriend of 2 years to South Carolina to visit his brother just a few weeks ago. I was only staying for the weekend, but my boyfriend was staying there another 10 days. I thought we all had a great time together, and when I got home, I remember thinking how happy I was to be with my boyfriend and wouldn't want to be with anyone else. Recently, I looked through his phone. I have found sketchy things in the past, so I really don't give a fuck when it comes to snooping. I saw texts to his brother not even 2 days after I left about there being some attractive girls at the pool, and his brother advised him to go talk to them. I looked at his search history and found that he looked up how to pick up women at the pool. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. This is, I'm laughing, and I think there's got to be an element of you're laughing, too, because this is so male. It is so, like so caveman-ish to be like, women at pool. How to pick up woman at pool.
I just love the idea of a dude being this sleazy, but also not knowing how to do it correctly. Like you needed a wiki how of getting some pussy at the pool is pretty funny.
What would he find on Google? Oh, the first thing you got to do.
Do you have cool sunglasses? Those are a must.
Yeah. Do you have a bucket with spiked seltzers? And repeat after me. Hey, ladies. Like,
if possible, pretend to be a pool boy and then tell them what else you could clean up. It's like, what are you doing? This is weird, man.
She writes, how bothered should I be by this? Is it just guys being stupid, or does he not like me as much as I thought he does? It hurts me that the second I leave, he wants to go hit on other women. Let me know what you think. So, Langston, do you have any advice for her? Are you, my question would start with this email, like, is there a chance that you would ever type this into your phone being 10 months? I know you wouldn't, but like, is there a scenario where you're in a relationship and you type this out?
Oh boy, I don't know that I guess the question that she's asking about not being concerned is the wrong question. That is big loser behavior.
Yeah.
Asking the internet for ways to hit on women is not a good sign for the human that you're choosing, more than it is a question of whether or not he's probably cheating on you.
Yeah, it's not, and she says, I agree with, like, her perspective is off. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and not to say she's off as a person. She's not. Many of us, anybody could be going down the road she's going, but I think when we look from this angle, she wrote something like, how bothered should I be? Is it just guys being stupid, or does he not like me as much as he thought he does? This isn't a thought of liking you not enough.
Yeah.
Even though that's kind of, this is a guy who wants you at his convenience while he looks for other women at his convenience.
Yeah, he invited you there for a weekend, and then he spent 10 more days figuring out how to hit on girls at the pool. You were a moment, and that doesn't mean you're not a valuable moment to him, but you certainly are not a moment that he cares enough about to isolate and keep as just that moment forever.
Yeah, and he's not afraid of losing your moments in the future.
Oh, no, not at all.
No.
In fact, he's willing to replace those moments with strangers.
Yeah, and the idea that his brother's involved, that means you left the weekend, and even if it was like, well, I was trying to like wingman it for my brother, that's not even the point, because, again, you said, I've looked through his phone, I found sketchy things in the past. Like, this is not about what you find on the phone. This is the need to go on his phone because you don't trust him. There's something missing here. And
he's always going to do something like this. And I think that's just, it's not a reflection of you. You probably are a very fine person, but he is not committed to you in any kind of way. And frankly, he's so uncommitted to you that he hasn't even learned how to hit on women yet, and still is willing to try in order to replace you.
That even says something about why he's in a relationship in the first place. This guy's obviously not someone who can go hook up on his own, just being a single guy and an honest. It's one thing to be honestly single, and it's another thing to be like a lying single guy.
Right. Yeah. You're like, if he's upfront and is like, look, I don't want to commit to this fully. I think that we should just sort of like see how it goes, and whatever he's doing, it's weird, but it's fine. But the alternative of saying, no, we're together, I'm going to introduce you to my brother and hang out for the weekend, and then do a wiki how of like where to find girls, that's a yucky turn. It's
a yucky, and also like someone that's like living in a different zone and kind of maturity level than you. Like this guy, to him, you're hooking up, and when you left, like the thing that would offend me most from her angle is like when she leaves, and then the brother's like, so what's up with you two? She's cool, but like, cat's away, might as well play. Like, what?
Yeah, there probably was a conversation at some point where they were just like, okay, now that she's gone, let's get to the thing we really came down here for, which is frustrating and unkind. And this guy asked Jeeves, you deserve better.
jtrainpodcast@gmail.com, jtrainpodcast@gmail.com. Here with Langston Kerman, @Langston Kerman. Go follow. Go get involved. He's got a podcast coming called My Mama Told Me, August 18th. Re-ghosted a second time.
Oh, boy.
This is douchebag day out here on the J-Train podcast. All feathers, I come to you with an issue that's extremely confused and frustrated me. I was dating a guy for 45 months. It was going well, except we wouldn't really talk in between hanging out. I was getting the dates I wanted, having fun, so it was all good, except I felt like we started to get stagnant and stop moving forward because there would be times we'd go a whole week without talking or checking in. It's hard to keep momentum when my texts and calls would go unanswered unless he felt like getting together, aka hooking up. And I wanted a little more interest and effort. It got to the point where I started to feel like the lack of communication between seeing each other was becoming strategic on his end to keep things from getting more serious and intimate. We talked about it. He said he liked me a lot and would do better, but ultimately didn't. After this talk, another week went by of no responses, so I took your advice to drive your own bus, and rather than wait on him, I reached out to end it. I left him a short and sweet message because, surprise, surprise, he didn't answer. And he said we might be wanting two different things, and while this might not be the match, I had enjoyed getting to know him and wished him all the best. 4 days later, he calls me back to say he just got my message and he's not sure what I'm talking about because he had been trying to get a hold of me and my phone was going straight to voicemail and he wasn't getting through. I don't buy it, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt since he made the effort to reach back out. We ended the convo on good terms, but now it's been over a week again and I've heard nothing from him even though I've tried again to get in touch. Why didn't he take the out when I gave it to him? I don't mind being dumped, but I feel jerked around here since I gave him the chance to bow out gracefully and he didn't take it. I feel like this is just prolonged things in my head when I could have been over it and moved on. We were at the point of dating where I would think a breakup should have been discussed and acknowledged. It was serious enough that we were beyond the point where fizzling out would be acceptable. To get ignored and ghosted makes me feel like I was so off base with what we had going on and how significant our relationship was. We are in our early 30s, so I feel like communicating our feelings like adults shouldn't be this difficult. Just wanted some straightforwardness on his end, and I'm struggling to make sense of all this. What's the lesson here? I always try to learn and grow from each relationship I have, but this time I felt like I handled everything the best I could and still got the short end of the stick. Help. Re-ghosted. What do you think, Langston?
Well, I think the only thing that I would challenge her on is that she should have stuck to her guns the first time. You knew that this was wrong. You knew that what he was doing didn't make sense. And then when he came back with probably the most ridiculous story that he could have come back with, which is straight to voicemail, you accepted this and continued forward in a relationship that wasn't going to work in the first place.
The straight to voicemail is the dog ate my homework.
Yes.
Of responses to this situation.
It's him patting his pockets and being like, "Oh man, maybe I'll take care of you when I get out the store." It's like, no.
Yeah, this doesn't
say you're not gonna give me any money. This isn't.
Yeah, and to me, like the why, like she ends it, and then he's like, "No, I didn't have your number," and it's like, there's a few reasons I could see him doing this. Like one, to keep you at kind of as an option.
Sure.
Another is that he doesn't want to be the bad guy, so he doesn't want to be like. Then that is way more. I don't think women give guys enough credit for how little we want to be the bad guy. You know,
well, it is both our. It's a good quality and horrific quality in us. In that no dude wants to be the bad guy, and we all know what the traditional bad guy looks like. And then we do a bunch of bad guy things to avoid looking like the stereotype of a monster.
Well, that isn't what you said is very interesting. The traditional bad guy, like a lot of these things, like we give a lot of like. You know, women get a lot of credit for like Disney movies and rom-coms, but like men don't get really the credit. And I'm not saying that we should be, you know, like held up and like,
no,
I'm not asking
build more statues of men is what I say.
Put a statue of a ghost and it'll be just this guy to represent this guy. Double
a ghost
ghosting
with
on
a penis. That's what we need for a statue.
That's right. But I am we should acknowledge that, like, this idea of being a gentleman is like, well, don't let a girl down. And like, a lot of the old gentleman things are like kind of drenched in being a liar. Like, and being, and like, hold the door open even though you don't want to do it.
Sure.
You know, like,
walk on the outside of the street so that if a car comes, you'll take the blow. And it's like, yeah, I don't want to die either.
Yeah.
None of us should be hit by cars. Let's agree on that.
Sure. And you're kind of set up for this situation where this guy's like, well, I don't want to be the bad guy, but I don't want to date her more than just hooking up.
Right.
So, but I don't want to say that. He'd be better off if he was like, listen, I take break. I don't text you back because I want to hook up with you when it's most convenient for me, and that's what I do. But instead,
he won't be honest, and that's what's making him the bad guy that he's trying to avoid being. Is like, just be straight up and say this person is not your person, but you like having sex with her, and then you can figure out the rest of it from there.
And she'd almost be relieved. She'd be like, and because her email is fantastic. What she writes is like, I feel like, what's the lesson here? I'm always trying to grow. I felt like I handled everything as best I could. You know, she writes that she felt that she said, we were at a point of dating where I think a breakup would have been discussed. It was serious enough to get ignored and ghosted. Makes me feel like I was off base with what we had going on.
Right.
And it makes me feel like, so you aren't off base because all his actions as far as going on dates and continuing it. I would say the other thing is, if you're afraid to send a text saying what's happening today in between your 6th and 7th date, then there's something off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
it just feels like communication is the big fault here. Like, this isn't she's not an unreasonable person in any way. And so when you're seeing this failure in communication, that needs to be a red flag above anything else that you might have wanted or thought you were building with this individual.
Yeah. And I think one of those things where she goes, it is interesting that she's like, it felt strategic that he wouldn't answer. And at first, you have to respect someone's space. You don't know them enough to even call them out on it. But there has to be a point, and I'm not saying that every person should be this textual relationship in between dates. I'm not saying that there's a number of texts you should have in between dates that make someone more interested or less interested. Right. But it sounds like she wanted some communication between dates. At one point, you have to go, admit to the fact, I want a text in between dates. And if he can't give that back to you, you kind of have to say to him, hey, I know we go out a lot, but like, if you don't answer my text, I feel like I'm kind of just dating someone that like pops in and out of town once a week.
Yeah, this is unacceptable behavior, and I won't stand for it, even if, I enjoy mushing into you sometimes. This isn't what I want.
Well, I love the unacceptable behavior can be different to everybody. Like,
for sure,
her version of unacceptable behavior is fine. But you have to let him know that.
And that's to your earlier point. I think that's part of the lesson for him as a quote unquote good or bad guy, is like, just because this is unacceptable behavior to her doesn't mean that you're a monster. It just means this doesn't work for the relationship that she wants. So you need to respect that and let her be free of whatever you're offering.
Could not agree more. JTrainPodcast@gmail.com, JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. Here with Langston Kerman at Langston Kerman on Instagram and Twitter. Go follow My Mama Told Me. That's the podcast. August 18th. Make sure you're following him. I have to say, I love the idea for the podcast. I think.
Oh, thank you.
Especially in the era of like, the uncomfortable conversations era.
Yeah.
Like, this is a way to learn about someone that you don't know. This is,
for sure.
I think
conspiracy theories are rampant. We're living in a world that is sick with conspiracy theories.
Sure.
So why not put out a different tone of conspiracy theories?
I love it. The J Train Podcast is brought to you by Native Deodorant. Ooh, I love Native deodorant. You know why I love it? Because my girlfriend is a big natural deodorant user. And I would, when we first started dating, I'd sleep at her place, and I'd take a look around the cabinets, see what she's doing, and I'm like, look, what's going on in here? And I'd pull it out, and she had this natural deodorant that I was like, I don't think it was working, to tell you the truth. Like, I really think I would smell it. It really didn't have a lot to it. And then she'd kind of stink it up a little bit, here and there. And I'd be like, what are you putting on your body? And she was like, it's good for you. It's not bad for you. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? And then Native deodorant kind of came to the rescue. It fit both of our needs. I got a great smelling girlfriend, and she got something that worked and that she loved. Native deodorant is an all-natural deodorant that is safe and effective. No aluminum, parabens, or talc. It is made with ingredients you've heard of, like coconut oil and shea butter. I have a new product announcement: 4 seasonal scents that will take you on a great American road trip for a limited time only. Transport yourself with 4 scents. Coastal oak and amber, inspired by the California coast. Sweet peach and nectar, inspired by the South. Cactus, flower, and poppy, inspired by the Southwest. And apple and honeysuckle, inspired by the Northeast. And, backed by popular demand, rosé deodorant, soap, and body wash. So this is great. It's a deodorant that feels good and you can also feel good about. They just launched plastic-free packaging. Their Plastic-Free by 23 initiative aims to provide sustainable packaging for all their products by 2023. Now, Native packaging is 100% paperboard and shipped in a plastic-free bag made from paper. This is great. They're trying. You're trying. This is one big, happy family of deodorant use. The best part is with Native, there is no risk to try. Native has free shipping and free returns in the United States. Do what I did and make the switch to Native today by going to nativedeo.com/JTrain or use code JTrain during checkout and get 20% off your first order. Wow, that's nativedeo.com. Use code JTrain during checkout. Native deodorant, take care of your body. Story too good not to air. So, okay. I always get afraid of emails that are like, this is the best story. But we are living in, we are on the podcast that also had the email of a guy Googling how to pick up chicks. And
at the pool. At the pool.
So, pool specific chick pickups. That's so funny. How clunky that is. Feather, longtime fan. Few months back, something wild happened that I think some of your listeners could laugh at. Met this guy on Hinge 2 months in, met his family. He says we're exclusive. It's awesome. 1 week, he starts being distant, and I decided to log into Hinge to see if he had updated his profile. I'm confused instantly because girls are popping up on my phone. I realized my phone logged into his account since he had used Safari on my phone for Facebook and didn't log out. Wow. Then I saw he had liked 40-plus girls that day and messaged a bunch. Needless to say, I ended things and haven't seen him since. I did get the classic paragraph apology 2 months later, but wasn't buying it. Since then, I have switched to Bumble, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. Now she's got a question. After a great second date with a guy, he deleted his Bumble profile. He is still texting me and planning our third date. Does this actually mean anything, or am I reading into it? Many thanks. So I can't believe that. How did this happen? Met a guy on Hinge. I'm confused instantly because girls are popping on my phone. I realize his phone has logged me into his account since he had used Safari. Would you ever do that?
So he went through Safari to log on to Facebook, and then that Facebook then magically logged him onto Hinge. I'm starting to think you did some snooping.
Yeah,
extra. You knew a passcode or 1 or 2 passcodes to be able to do that, because that's a weird.
It is quite a jump to like open up Safari. I guess his Facebook account. I don't understand like how I mean the idea that this guy was so free and easy with his with his phone usage is like crazy to me.
I don't know anybody who's that desperate to check their Facebook and then doesn't log off on someone else's phone. That's a weird choice.
He had 40 plus matches. He wanted to see, what the net brought in.
These girls aren't going to message themselves. I got to get on Facebook and then Hinge.
I mean, if anything, this email should tell us all is like men are not very subtle.
No.
Like as far as the Googling how to pick up chicks at the pool and using your account and not logging out. Like there's not. How about someone deleting their profile after they've matched but still messaging? Is there anything to look into there?
I think there's a possibility. I think it's only the third date, so I wouldn't start counting my chickens. They have not yet hatched, but I would say that you probably can presume that this guy is at least excited about you. So maybe you could take some time to figure out if that excitement is worth anything. Is the real question.
I agree with you. I think there's another side of this. It's either he's so excited by you that he's like, delete the app, let's give my full attention to this beautiful person. Or it's, I can't have my girlfriend find out. Now that I found one, now that I got a fish, hide the lure.
This trap is full, so I don't need to put this out anymore.
Put away the trap because I got my catch.
Sure.
And now I can't have the old bag see that so this is fraught with problems because
there is a big risk here that you look at the logic of it. It's like most dudes are not so immediately enthralled with somebody that they're willing to delete a dating app 2 dates in.
Sure.
It feels abrupt. So either you are spectacular, which I'm sure you are, or he's got something else going on.
But that's kind of like the rub of dating. Like, to me, like, you can't figure that out. Anyone can be lied to.
Yes.
Like, none of us are too smart. So, like, I think, like, I understand why she's like, well, now his account's gone. I understand why that speaks to you, but, like, I would trust there's other things to look at that can let you know, like, listen, you got to be like, am I having a good time with this guy?
Exactly.
I want to go again. Is he making the plan to go out again? If those two things are true, go with it. If you find weirdness, weirdness doesn't happen singularly.
Yeah.
Weirdness is connecting 30 dots.
You're not just weird one day and then real cool for the rest of the time. It's like, no, it's an ongoing thing that you can sort of start to piece together.
I remember I met this guy once, and he's in the comedy world, and I remember meeting him, and I was like, that was a weird meeting. And then other things would pop up. I would go, kept in mind, and then I was like, that was another weird thing. And then there's a point where I go, all right, time to remove this person from my life.
Yeah, this energy doesn't match whatever I need. It's not right.
And to the point of saying that is, listen, you're not going to go, aha, like right away.
Yeah.
Like, give people the opportunity. Life is getting disappointed by people. Life is learning through those disappointments. And, not everyone's going to be 100% with you. And hopefully, I hope that this guy deleted it because you're the queen of his world. Like, I hope that's your case.
Yeah, no, it would be beautiful if that's the case, but there's also a real possibility he just switched to Hinge. So he knows you're not on there anymore, so he went to Hinge, and that's
and you're in the phone as Bumble Bitch, and now he's looking for his Hinge hookup. JTrainPodcast@gmail.com, JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. Here with Langston Kerman at Langston Kerman. My Mama Told Me. That's the podcast, August 18th. Help me, J-Train. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go. I'm emailing you in regards to my boyfriend's Explore page on his Instagram account. The other night, I looked over his shoulder and saw that his Explore page is all women. Not like Instagram models in bikinis, but a lot of average-looking pretty girls. After noticing Average looking pretty girl. Just regular pretty girls, not those Instagram model, not the ones that got passed on by the manager of Instagram onto the model.
I will say it sounds ridiculous, but I know exactly what she's talking about.
I do too. I
have a shit ton of Instagram models on my Explore page.
Yep.
But I wouldn't dare disrespect my wife by having some regular pretty girl on there. No.
It is funny, these delineations we all make without talking about them, because making fun of it while making fun of it, I'm like, I know just like you said, I know exactly what's going on here. You know, so after noticing that his Explore page was flooded with women, I checked who he follows, and he's not following a lot of women, just his friends or meme accounts. What could this mean? Is he looking at a lot of girls' accounts? Is he DMing them? For context, I'm 27, he's 31. We've been together for 4.5 years. He occasionally travels for work, and in the past, I noticed he would get new girl followers from that area. He doesn't ever follow them. When I have brought it up in the past, he would just tell me that I'm insecure and I'm looking way too into it. His Explore page, something I should be concerned about. Do most men's Explore pages look like this? So this was written in, I think I answered this over DM, but because I remember this question.
Yeah.
I know I didn't do it over a podcast, but it is a slight wrinkle.
Yes.
That this last paragraph, we've been together for 4.5 years. He occasionally travels for work. In the past, I noticed he would get new girl followers from that area. He doesn't ever follow them. When I've brought it up in the past, he would just tell me that I'm insecure and I'm looking way too into it. So what do you think?
Yeah, that part is the part that made me uncomfortable. I was fine with everything before. It kind of just sounded like a dude who was lurking, and
sure,
we all get our rocks off however we do, and fine.
Listen, you just said it. I'll back you up. The Explore page is full of women that are across the spectrum between money-making model and aspiring model.
Yes.
So
it's a lot of dreamers on my Explore page.
So it would make sense that he's looking at specific women and also back to the conversation about being a gentleman, he's maybe looking up these names, not following out of respect for you, and just looking at it when he wants to look at it, gets his rocks off, and he comes back to normalcy. That could be the case. Yeah. The fact that you're seeing followers from other places, that's where that
starts to get weird. Because, like, if he's not, we're comedians, you know what I mean? Like, when I travel, I get new followers. I'm not following them. There's a logical progression to how these people come to be in my life. But if he's going to do marketing in Cincinnati and suddenly shows up with these pretty girls in Cincinnati, that's a weird energy.
Yeah, and then to have it connect, it would the extra followers, if you're just an accountant a forensic accountant who has to travel to count the chickens, like that's a different story.
Yeah,
I agree completely. So I think for her, she gives the Instagram handles. I don't think that. I guess that would be to see what his job is. I could look at that, but
I'd love to know his work.
I mean, let's see if we can.
Something real cool.
I mean, if it's like a band, then you get it.
Yeah, professional wrestler. That makes sense.
That's fine. We're on board with professional wrestler and band person. We're not. Okay. He's doing something that isn't necessarily not public.
Okay.
So I'll give him that.
Is it a lot of him shaking hands in bars? What are we seeing?
I don't want to give it away. Let's call him something of an athlete.
Okay. So there's crowds. There are people seeing him do a thing. Sure.
And I could see that. Here's the other thing. When you get followed by someone that you think is cute, you go, let me take a look. Who's this person? That is not beyond a guy who's in love with someone else. That's not beyond.
You don't have to be a disloyal person to go look at a pretty face and just check. You're like, that's what I thought it would be, and then you move on with your life.
And then you move on. So it could be that he's going on the road of some sort, Getting followed. But I think also, like, we don't know. I again, this is like on a spectrum of like, yeah, I go check them out and it's no problem. Or, you know, when I go to a new town, that this is. But I think the connection between the Explore page and the new followers and him being maybe a little bit more of a public person than just an accountant, this could be in the land of okay. But I think you got to talk to him about it. And I think saying you're insecure and you're looking into it is not enough for me.
Yeah, I think he should do more to help ease her insecurity in this, and she has, I think, every right to feel some doubt because it is. You and I both heard the story and we're like,
yeah.
So he should do at least a little something to be like, look, my DMs, they're largely empty, and
clean.
Whatever. The ones that are there are being sent to me and I'm not responding. I'm a goddamn hero. Do something to make her feel better.
The J Train podcast is brought to you by Quip. I love Quip. You know why I love Quip? It keeps us honest. That's right. We all brush our teeth and we're all too old to really ask for a reintroduction of teeth brushing. That's the reality. We brush our teeth twice a day and then we look at ourselves and we go, you did a good job, but we don't know. Quip keeps you honest. It has a timer that goes, that clicks every 30 seconds 4 times so that you know that you've done the 4 quadrants of your mouth for 30 seconds each. It also sends there. You can go on a program where they're going to send you the dentist recommended, reorder of brushes and stuff. You know, when you need a new brush, you go, I think it was 3 months. You don't know. Quip keeps you honest. 75% of us use old, worn-out bristles that are ineffective, and even more people forget to floss daily. Good health starts with good habits. If you have good habits, you'll have good teeth. That's what Quip is doing. They're teaching an old dog new tricks. That's right. You are an old dog, and you don't know how to brush your teeth, and you wouldn't admit that to anybody, but you can tell your friend Quip. So what's a good habit? That means brushing for 2 minutes twice a day and flossing regularly. How confident are you that you're brushing for 2 minutes? You're not. Just admit it. You can admit it to me. Quip makes it easy by delivering all the oral care essentials you need to brush and floss better. Quip's electric toothbrush has sensitive sonic vibrations with a built-in timer and 30-second pulses to guide a full and even clean. They had me at timer with pulses. That's when I'm sold. There's even a size-down version designed for kids. So if you got kiddos out there, teach them young so that they don't have to get some dude yelling at them on a podcast to relearn how to brush their teeth. Dentists recommend you brush for 2 minutes, and Quip helps you do it every time. Paired with Quip's anti-cavity toothpaste and mint or watermelon, you get all the ingredients teeth actually need and none they don't. Quip also has an eco-friendly refillable floss with a dispenser you keep for life and expanding string that helps to clean in between. Quip brush head, toothpaste, and floss refills are automatically delivered on a dentist recommended schedule every 3 months for just $5 each. A friendly reminder when it's time for a refresh and to stay committed to your oral health, and shipping is free. Join over 3 million happy customers and practice good oral care easily and affordably with Quip starting at $25. And if you go to getquip.com/JTrain, let me repeat that. Quip.com/JTrain. Right now, you'll get your first refill free. That's free. That's your first refill free at getquip.com/JTrain. Let me spell it for you. GETQUIP.com/JTrain. Quip, the good habits company. JTrain podcast at gmail.com. JTrain podcast at gmail.com. Here with Langston Kerman at Langston Kerman, going from long distance to living together.
Uh-oh.
So I think this is in your wheelhouse.
I know a little something about this.
J-Train, Feather. I listen to every episode as soon as it comes out. You're the first person I've subscribed to on Patreon. Thank you. You're a real gem, and especially as I'm quarantining in my little studio apartment, you've become one of my favorite, funny, insightful voices to put on when it gets too quiet around here. Thank you. Here's my thing. My boyfriend and I met in San Francisco and started doing long distance when he moved to Indianapolis for work early on in our dating each other. So they met in San Francisco, long distance when he moved to Indianapolis. That makes sense. We've gotten more serious, and we both like the idea of moving to Colorado to be together in a beautiful place where we could afford a bigger place. That was the fuzzy future plan, but now that both of our jobs have gone remote with COVID, that's suddenly become a much more doable option. His lease is up in November, and we're thinking about making the move then. I'm 31. I've had one other serious relationship and dated a good amount of people in different contexts, but I've never lived with a boyfriend before. Same for him. Basically, he's 33. I'm crazy about him, and I'm excited to be in the same place again, but I'm a little nervous about changing so much at once. We're moving to a new place. We're going from long distance to spending most of our time together in person, and we're going from having offices full of people we both we like to both of us working remotely in our new place. Friend-wise, he has some good friends in Colorado already. I'd be mostly starting fresh, though I do really like the friends of his I've met so far. I'd love any advice you have about how to set up the situation in a way that helps us make new friends in this distance time, and helps us find the space we need to recharge alone too. I love how you talk about your relationship with Jess, and I want to approach this that openly. Thank you. Attaching photos. They are a cute couple. They're on a swing set. Langston,
hell yeah.
You can speak from experience on this, right?
Yeah, my wife and I were together for 2 years long distance. We actually never even lived in the exact same city when we first started dating.
Okay, how did you guys meet?
A mutual friend who I was visiting back home in Chicago and who she did like Teach for America with. It's a long story, but we met that weekend and hooked up, and then later I kept pursuing her, and she tolerated me enough to let it happen. And so for 2 years we were long distance, New York to Baltimore, which is obviously much easier than San Francisco to Indianapolis, but then we moved to LA together and immediately started living together, and I'll say that it was fine. It was fine. Yeah, you will be fine if you guys genuinely like each other and there's no like weird doubt in your head. You will be okay.
So is there anything about the space that you guys got together that you would change? Maybe a setup thing, a physical structure thing?
I'm sure my wife would have different feelings about this, but I'll say that one of the things that probably frustrated her more is that she brought way more shit than I did. Like I had a mattress and a frame, and I was like, boom, this is us. This is
where do I put this backpack?
Right. And she had like a full like couch and TV. Stand and beds and all the stuff that you need to build a real home. So I think the more you can bring into this together and not just independent of one another, the more it'll feel like a shared space and not the other.
I'm on the same page with you. I moved in with my girlfriend mid-pandemic. We got, and again, the idea of starting new together is a great thing. Getting a couch together. Don't be afraid of like, well, what if this doesn't work out? What do we do with the couch? That you can sell a couch. There's plenty of apps. If you hate each other, you'll be glad to give them the couch to get away from them.
We've all lost couches. You'll be okay.
Do it together. Make it a truly, I think what you said is right, shared space where you both like have, and I would also encourage you to get, because you're going to Colorado, 2 bathrooms. Get many bathrooms. I am in a 1-bathroom situation. My girlfriend has learned more about my bowel problems and issues than she would have liked to have known. You're going to want your own bathroom time. 2 bathrooms would be another suggestion.
2 bathrooms is great. Extra rooms, if that's at all a possibility. You want some space where you can be isolated from one another, especially in the middle of a pandemic.
Absolutely. And lastly, my girlfriend and I moved to we moved to the Lower East Side. It is such a fun time down here. That I can go out on my own. She can go out on her own. She can go meet friends. I think if they were like, well, we can save money by going to this section, or we can pay a little bit more to go to the more fun section, Go to the more fun section.
Yeah, especially if you're having to build all new relationships, which it sounds like she is, then you're going to want to be somewhere where that's easy and convenient, not just trapped in like some part of Colorado where you only get to see his buddies all the time.
Absolutely. Making adult friends is a lot easier when people want to go to where you are.
Right.
like, oh no, we're like 30 minutes away. We got a great brunch place. No. I don't want to go fucking there for someone I don't know. Right. Or it's, wow, you go to the hot spot. And I know that can feel like a year from now, you might roll your eyes like, oh yeah, we live in, whatever section. That's where everyone lives when they move here. The first year, you'll be happy you did it.
Yeah, nobody wants to visit you in Yonkers. So
no.
Just whatever the Yonkers version of Colorado is, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Pick something real Lower East Side energy.
Yeah, treat yourself. Treat yourself to the extra couple of bucks it's going to cost you to have an area that you could go out alone in and have a good time, because that will give you kind of some release from each other. And you'll have, if that's the case, you'll have more fun together. You guys will love hanging in your new area. It becomes like kind of like a little bit of an adventure for you both.
Hell yeah.
JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. Langston, let's do one more. Is that okay? Can we do a quick one?
I'd love to. Let's do it.
At Langston Kerman. Go follow. Go support. Get involved. Ooh, okay. Podcast question. So not a lot of description here.
Okay.
Been dating guy for about 6 weeks exclusively, and it's going really well aside from the fact that he hasn't told his friends, family about me yet. Okay, that's not really well then. I've told most... I've told
most really well, except for this giant gaping hole that keeps building bigger and bigger. But anyway.
but on to my question about Googling how to meet women at the pool. I've told most of my people, but I don't have a lot of friends, family in the city, so I haven't had any opportunity to ask if he wanted to meet them. We discussed it once a couple weeks ago, and he said he was going to start telling people soon, but hasn't done so yet. I'm wondering, how long into a relationship does this become a more serious concern? I know a month isn't that long, but I'm starting to worry about it a bit. He got out of a 10-year relationship about a year ago and hasn't dated a few people since then before me, and said he was nervous to tell people he was dating again when we talked about it, and that he was going to find a way to bring it up. But as far as I know, he hasn't yet. Thanks for your help. So most of these emails start out with like, oh, well, it seems like you should just have a big hangout with all your friends. And then it goes, he was in a 10-year relationship and the answer to the question becomes pretty clear. The real question becomes apparent. What do you think, Langston?
Yeah, I think at first we had a good chuckle at the way that this was framed, but I do think that honestly, a person coming out of a 10-year relationship has every reason to be hesitant about reintroducing a new person into sort of their social network.
Sure.
And so I think you should think about it less as a slight on you or a slight on what you're building, and more of a person being protective of, what previously was everybody knowing him as a person in a very different relationship.
Yeah, I'm with you. There is, and I know no one wants to hear this, but every new relationship comes with a little bit of trepidation of what the old relationships will think. And that's kind of like the messy truth of it, of like, hey, I got some like bows I have to tie before we can really like, ship off to sea as us being together. And she says it's only been like 6 weeks. And listen, I think for you, for this person, like, introduce them to the friends you have. Like, be okay with like, I know it's one of those things where like, especially for women, sometimes it feels like, well, if I introduce friends, then they're going to ask, what's our deal? And then if we break up a day later, then it's embarrassing. I think for him, I agree with you completely. Like, 10-year relationship, like, as far as the introductions are concerned, it's a little bit slower to do. But
everybody probably knew that lady and liked her, and like were making permanent plans in their mind of like what their life together might be, and so he's being hesitant and
shared friends too.
Yes, exactly.
And when you're this much older, like I think like also it doesn't have to be like this is your life episode. It doesn't have to be everyone in his. I think this person would feel a lot more comfortable if it was like, yeah, like, well, I got my one friend. We're going to go meet up with them. Like, I think you can let them know that, like, listen, I don't need to meet, but I think for the woman writing in, like, saying, like, if he's resistant to meeting your friends or someone that or casually meeting up with you and a friend at a bar, that's a bad thing.
Right. Yeah, he's not. I think to your point, it's okay to make this a little more smaller, a little smaller, and a little more like edible for everybody to enjoy. And it will be a lot easier for him to say like, oh, well, I'll meet your one buddy, and then you can meet my one buddy, and then we'll build that up to family barbecue whenever we all feel a little more comfortable.
When we get to, absolutely. So I think like if you could lead, that's the way to go. Like if she's like, hey, she said she doesn't have a lot of friends and family in the city. You got to have one friend that you could be getting a drink with that you could say, hey, why don't you come join us? Yes. And if he's not open for that, that's when I would start to go, okay, are you actively avoiding getting close with me? I think if he does come and you have a good time, then he will be more freed to be like, hey, I'm out with my friend. Now come meet up with us. Like it becomes a different thing. Yeah.
Go in nice and easy.
Yeah.
Just don't. Yeah. This doesn't have to go 0 to 60. I think you're doing fine.
JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. JTrainPodcast@gmail.com. Langston Kerman, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. What a fun time.
Always a blast. It's great to see you. It's great to talk to you. This was great. I think everyone needs to go follow Langston right now. @Langston Kerman on Instagram and Twitter. My mama told me that's the podcast, August 18th. Go get subscribed to the podcast. I truly think it's going to be great. I'm Jared Freid. We're here every Monday and Thursday. Keep telling your friends. Keep telling a coworker. Also, if you're listening this far in and you're near Charleston, South Carolina, I'm going to be doing shows. August, I think, I'm doing outdoor shows at Uptown Social. And it's going to be August 19th and 20th. That's the date, the day after Langston's podcast debuts. I'm going to be we're doing outdoor shows at Uptown Social. The links are all over my socials, so go check that out. We'll be back next episode. Boom!